Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. What is going on, Colts Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Well, hey, guys, we want to kind of talk about this topic because, Derek, it's one that I've just recently been thinking about. You know, I posted stuff on Twitter about it, and I thought it'd be worth a good conversation around a certain position group for the Indianapolis Colts. And, Derek, I want to say this. This is before anything has gone down. We figured out one way or another whether the Indianapolis Colts are going to be bringing Trey Hendrickson in or not. You know, we heard, Jeremy Fowler saying things like the Indianapolis Colts are the team to watch when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, but there also is the possibility he goes back to Cincinnati. So we don't know 100% what's going to happen there. But, Derek, I noticed this trend here with Chris Ballard the last two off seasons, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. The last two off seasons. So last off season, it's been very well documented. The Indianapolis Colts were very close to landing Danielle Hunter. They were very much in the hunt for Danielle Hunter. They wanted him to come to Indianapolis, and obviously they didn't do enough to make it happen. Danielle Hunter went to Houston.
Yeah.
And they drafted Latu, and now we're hearing that the Indianapolis Colts are right in there in terms of interest in trading for Trey Hendrickson now, another edge guy. That, yeah, he just like Danielle Hunter, he's a little bit older, but Derek, a proven guy that's been very productive at the NFL level, especially obviously the last 2 years, he's led the league in sacks. So that kind of leads me to this point. I think, Derek, the Indianapolis Colts view edge a lot more than a lot of us are thinking about. They view it as a bigger need than maybe we're considering and maybe we're talking about truly, because you've seen them now back-to-back off seasons, whether or not they do it or not, making a concerted effort to go get a true alpha at defensive end, at edge position. And right now, even though they did draft Latu, Derek, there are legitimate question marks beyond 2025 about the future of the edge position for the Indianapolis Colts, right? There's nobody under contract outside of Latu. So, with that being said, Derek, whatever happens with Trey Hendrickson, well, obviously a lot of dominoes will happen from there. And I said this in my tweet. I said, regardless if the Trey Hendrickson thing works out or not for Indianapolis, if they're able to get him or not, I do think the edge position is going to be one that the Indianapolis Colts are going to do their best on to really put an emphasis on. Because obviously we've seen what they've already done in the secondary, in free agency, signing a couple big guys, signing a depth piece. They're going all in on the secondary. But right now, when it comes to the edge position specifically, you have a couple guys on your roster right now, but they're all set to be free agents in 2026. So what are your thoughts there on kind of where the Indianapolis Colts currently sit with, their defensive end edge position? And what do you think about the fact that now we've heard their name brought up in two pretty big fish when it comes to edge guys?
Yeah, we know that Chris Ballard puts a lot of emphasis in the trenches, both offensive line and defensive line. And it's no doubt that having a premier edge rusher is a very powerful thing to have on your defense and for your team in general. And it's why the Indianapolis Colts are, still on the hunt to try to get Trey Hendrickson, because obviously having a Trey Hendrickson, even if it was only for 3 years, is still a valuable asset to have to this team, and what he can provide opposite of Latu. It would be a great asset, 100%, regardless of cost. Doesn't really matter what you would get with Trey Hendrickson. Ultimately, could revolutionize your defense, and that's what you're taking the chance on. And like you said, Cody, they tried to get Danielle Hunter last year, despite the Colts willing to give him more money than Houston. He wanted to be back home. And, that's just kind of an unfortunate thing. Ballard could have tried to offer even more money to Danielle Hunter to try to get that to fix up. But, again, how much more would he have had to have given up to convince him to come to Indianapolis rather than Houston? it's kind of just one of those things you can't get away from. And then obviously this year, no denying the Trey Hendrickson thing, because as you said, you're uncertain with your future for the position outside of this year. And I will say that if the Colts do land the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes, then by some miracle, if we do, then yeah, I mean, then it would 100%. I think it definitely changes how you feel about the edge group, at least in 2026. I mean, heck, I'd say at least for 2025 and 2026, you don't have to worry about edge rush. But obviously, that final year when Latu's coming off of his rookie contract and Trey Hendrickson would be coming off of an extension, you have to now focus on what are you going to do after that. Are you going to would you re-sign Hendrickson? I doubt it, at least to the money that he may want. I have no idea. But as you said, with Latu, let's just under the assumption that you don't get Hendrickson, then yeah, 100% you have to figure out what you're going to try to do at edge going forward, because obviously who you have currently isn't really going to pan out for the team. Ebukam is, he's 30 years old. He's coming off a major injury. The production has never really been outstanding. It's been good, but it's not been a game changer for us. Latu is still super young and he's still trying to figure himself out. And, hopefully this year he'll get more share of the snaps and he'll have a greater impact because of that. But yeah, Kwity Paye, he's coming into a contract year this next year. You already gave him his 5th-year contract. And then obviously you let Dayo Adangbo go, and Tyquan Lewis is getting older and, isn't really doing much to help there either. So you really don't have a lot of options. But I know we're about to go into it here with this draft board here. I will say this, it's very concerning for me when it comes to this position when we're talking about drafting someone, because Cody, if there's been one position where Ballard has consistently failed at putting together even a relatively decent person on the defensive line or anywhere on the team, it's defensive end. Cody, he has drafted 6 defensive ends since coming to Indianapolis. 4 of them are not on the team anymore. Okay, so if that tells you anything, and 2 of them is obviously Latu, who you just drafted this last year, and Kwity Paye, who's on his 5th year with the team and, hasn't really had a whole lot to show for it.
You've actually drafted 7 if you throw in Terrell Basham in the 3rd round in 2018.
That's right. So Terrell Basham goes off to another team. So it's a concern for me, especially since when we look at this edge group in general, right? Abdul Carter, we know we're not going to get him in availability for this year. James Pierce, there's the possibility he could slip, but a lot of people feel he's a top 10 talent. Mike Green, a splash player for sure, but then there's the questions of, is he going to translate to the NFL better? And there's the question marks on Cody. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Mike Green currently has a sexual assault allegation put against him currently. Again, it's just an allegation. There's nothing set in stone about it. It is what it is. I've seen a lot of reports on it, but that could weigh an impact on whether or not the Indianapolis Colts want to do that. I'll say this to end my little rant here. The only way I would feel comfortable of the Indianapolis Colts taking an edge in this draft class, at least early, is if they traded back from 14 and took pick 20 or 21 or something. Then you might still have your possibility of a Mykel Williams, a Mike Green still be there. There's Shamar Stewart that's possibly still there. Yeah, outside of that, I don't know how I feel about the Colts trying their luck with another defensive end early in a draft when past just tells you that Ballard and company haven't done a great job at that yet. As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I also think the fact that Derek, outside of Latu, and I guess you could throw Kwity Paye in there, although he was a late round pick, I kind of look at it and say a lot of those guys were, second round guys in a lot of ways, right? They were guys that, were a little bit looked at as projects. And I think that's a thing that we talked about last year when they took Latu originally. It's like, wow, they actually married the two where they, were able to get a guy that had, some good RAS stuff, some good measurables, but also had the sack production as well. And so I kind of look at that and I say, if you're going to stay where you're at, right in the middle of the first round, there's going to be some guys available. I do believe pretty much everybody outside of Abdul Carter is likely going to be around. So I do think you would have your choice of guys to really identify if you wanted to, if you're Indianapolis, right? But also, like you said, there is their opportunity to trade down and still get a guy. And so while it's like, there are a couple guys that I think might make some sense there for the Indianapolis Colts where they originally pick. If they don't deem one guy standing out from the others, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them trade back and draft a guy. So, but I totally understand what you're saying. And it's not going to be a position that this guy comes in from day one, likely, right, and makes an immediate impact. Could he? Yes, absolutely. But he's likely going to be sitting behind a couple different guys like Kwity Paye, Samson Ebukam, maybe even Taekwon Lewis and Leatu Latu, So it's going to be a thing where maybe his first year, he kind of has to sit and learn a little bit. And maybe there's certain packages you put him in. And I think that also leads me to the next argument that people will say is like, you have guys for this year, Derek, like you have players that you could, if you go out and say, give me a starting, 2 edges, you have guys you can realistically put out there. You have all those guys. You don't have a future beyond 2025. So I hear that argument, Derek, that people are saying when it comes to, there's other positions as well that you could address that could make a bigger impact earlier on. So I totally understand that. I'm just saying, based off of what the Colts are doing, what the Colts have done, I wouldn't be shocked at all because of Chris Ballard, knowing him, knowing his history, knowing how much he really, really wants to get that edge position solved, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Now, I do think there are some other, obviously you need tight end, you need linebacker, you need a couple other positions as well. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Colts go that route, but I also acknowledge there are some other needs that if you drafted somebody else there at 14 or you traded back and got somebody, they could have an immediate impact, maybe more than an edge guy at that position. So that is another argument to be made there, Derek, when it comes to taking an edge guy earlier on versus going and getting, somebody else at another position that could truly help you, like a linebacker, like an offensive lineman, like whatever, throw in another position, like there are really realistically positions there that could help and be a day one type of guy, where I don't know if an edge guy is necessarily going to be that from day number one.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have little faith in this edge class. It makes it very difficult for me to think we go that route. And, unless and that's the thing too, I don't even want a situation where, we take a edge guy in the second, third, or fourth round or something like that, because, if you're gonna invest in that kind of position, I want you to do it early. And, if the Indianapolis Colts decided James Pierce is that true ultimate guy and he falls to like 10 or something, and you wanted to trade up to get him, then by all means, I'm fine with the aggressiveness of it if the Colts think that's what they need to do. But, again, I like some of the names that are up here, but outside of Abdul Carter and in some cases James Pierce, don't really think that there is a true threat of a edge guy in this class that just makes me go, wow, that's a guy that I want on this team that's going to be a difference maker. I mean, but I will say this to your point, Cody, from before. I do see some people on Twitter mentioning it, that the edge class is a group that the Colts should address. And, just like what we did last year, right? You and I were on, team edge from very early on in the offseason last year. And a lot of people didn't even bring it up. And a lot of people even made fun of us for suggesting the idea that, Chris Ballard would take an edge rusher in the first round over a lot of the other positions that the Indianapolis Colts had. Not to mention Latu, because we were all enamored with Dallas Turner or Gerard Verse and not Latu really in a sense. So, anything can happen. You're right. Anything can happen. I'm just, I have my reservedness on this position, man. Just it's one thing, man. It's just the one position that Chris Ballard has just failed time and time again to bring somebody in. I do get that what I'm suggesting is that, the Indianapolis Colts not really go edge, but you can't always be afraid to do that, because, if Ballard just decided, oh, I'm not very good at drafting edge guys, I'm just never going to draft an edge early ever again, then yeah, that can lead to some major problems down the road, obviously. But yeah, I just think for right now, especially early, since there's still so many positions for the Indianapolis Colts that need more attention than the edge at this current moment, I think that your edge group would probably just not be reserved for very early in the draft.
Derek, if they're not able to do it, if Cincinnati, reworks a deal for Trey Hendrickson, or they're just being stingy, I would not rule out edge just because it's Chris Ballard and because you realistically need to be thinking forward on that position about what it's going to look like, moving forward. When it comes to the future. So, but again, Derek, who knows? Next offseason, when they go into free agency, if it is Chris Ballard, if it's somebody else, and you identify we need to get another edge, there may be some guys available there that you go and spend big money. You do what you did to the DB room, but you go and get an edge guy. I could see that being a thing, but I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, guys, edge I think is a sneaky position that we don't talk about a lot, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about Chris Ballard, about this edge position in particular. Who would be your person in the draft you'd like to see the Indianapolis Colts go and get? Let us know all those things, guys, in the comments down below. But that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. If you haven't done it already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. But again, guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.